He has time.
He's
Off
got
the left
him.
side. Dobbs is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Good morning, everyone. It is Ken and Ken in the morning. Today it's just the three of us. We got my partner in crime, Ken, and Robert. And, well, we got a little bit of a show today. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. How's it going there?
I was saying before, we got a couple guys who couldn't make today, some real work calls, because, none of us are quitting our day jobs to do this. Well, Ken and I don't have day jobs. So I guess we're the exceptions.
I'm the boss, man. I'm the boss. I just make people work.
All Rob has to do is sit there and every so often check the phone and say, "You will do this." Send.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what was I saying?
Yes.
So a couple guys had to be out. But good
morning,
Mike. We got the three of us this morning. Don't forget, I just want to mention with the layout, you notice we got every day we're improving something. That little QR code in your bottom right corner, if you go, use that QR code, go to NFL Shop, you will receive a nice little discount on your Bears or Packers or NFL item. Helps us out a little bit. Not that we're making enough money to quit our day jobs or any money at all, really. But you get a discount. We get a little something to improve the quality of the show, because how do you think we buy mixer boards, mics, and headsets? So, I just wanted to point that out this morning. Another slow day in the NFL yesterday, gents. Not much going on. It looks, hopefully it's gonna pick up soon, but I don't know, Robert. I'm waiting for this afternoon for the St. Brown Brothers podcast, because they have Justin Fields on, and I guess he's going to talk about the Instagram moment that everyone's freaking out about. I shared with you guys what my son thought yesterday, being the young entrepreneur that he is. He looked at it from, they're trying to extort more for the number one pick. But I don't know, not much going on. But how are you doing this morning, Rob? And what do you think about some of that?
I'm doing pretty good. We're all living the dream, I guess. The three of us are anyway. As far as Fields goes, man, it's a hot topic right now. We say there's not a lot to talk about, but that's all anybody's talking about right now is the Bears. What are they going to do with the first pick? Are they trading Fields? Are they picking up Caleb Williams? Are they going to MHJ? Man, it's crazy, and we're all speculating. And honestly, I don't see how, in my opinion, I don't see Poles giving up that first pick like he did last year. He traded for a haul last year, and look, he's now back where he actually did it right. If you think about it, he's now back in the same position he was last year with an opportunity to do whatever he wants again. So, and he has 2 picks in the first. So, holy smokes, man! You guys are gonna get a take no matter what, and make your team legit this year. So. But I don't know. I think you take MHJ, you give yourself 2 number ones, and then you either trade up and go for the quarterback, a different quarterback, or you turn that into a haul. But if you got 2 number ones with DJ Moore, and bro, you guys are gonna, no matter what quarterback you put in there, he's coming into a good position. So whether it be Fields staying, you're right, he did improve last year with the help of DJ Moore. Now you give him another guy, and Kmet. You sent that video. I did look at the numbers, and the numbers. Some of the numbers don't. It just tells a story that the Bears need more talent around Fields to make Fields better. So, this draft is the draft for you to do that. Then you got to keep the components. You got the draft picks. You guys definitely got the fucking money to sign.
Can we borrow some of that cap space?
Yeah, no shit. I wish we had some, but No,
and it's
I
going up
understand.
at 19 and a half. So the Bears going to be around 80, 90 million. And,
That's
and,
ridiculous.
and it's crazy.
This
And,
fucking
you know,
ridiculous.
before you even start thinking about Justin or Caleb or whatever, I mean, you got free agency, which will probably tell you a lot more about what they're going to do with the number 9 pick. But no, Rob, I agree with you. And I think the offseason becomes this. Every year it's the quarterback du jour, right? Like every year there's got to be something to keep these guys. Well, look, we got to have something to keep you guys watching. They got to have something to keep you clicking. So pick a quarterback that maybe could have some kind of controversy, like their contract is up and they haven't been re-signed yet. Like last year was Lamar. Like if we listen to the talking heads last year, Lamar was going to be in Cleveland or Seattle or there are all these places that Lamar was going to be next year. Well, he ended up staying in Baltimore, winning MVP. If you go before that, like 3 years ago, Rodgers was retiring.
As a Packer fan, for all the last 5 years Rodgers was here, it was always a controversy. So
Adam Schefter reports Rodgers is going to San Francisco. It's like,
so.
Oh my God, I couldn't stand this nonsense.
The darkness retreat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. They got to have something, and it's like I'll call. I already know what next year's is going to be, right? Unless the Packers sign Jordan Love to an extension the offseason this year. And if there's not an extension signed before the final snap of next year, it's going to be Jordan Love because his contract's up. And that's going to be how he's not happy. He's not happy in Green Bay. He doesn't like this. He's mad they made him sit and waste all this time. He's going to Team X. That really is. But that'll be the narrative next year, right? And Bears fans are going to always want to talk about it. Like Green Bay Packer fans mostly want to talk about Fields because they look at it like I get a chance to talk some smack about how bad you are. And that's what happens. Every year it happens. And you know what? If it's not Jordan Love, it's going to be another quarterback, or another team that's got the number 1 pick and the next generation. Because every year, generational talent. Like, dude, we get a generational talent every year, according to these talking heads on all these. They like the big words. Oh, let's use big words that sound awesome so people will click. Every year, it's a generational talent. Last year, the quarterbacks were generational talents, and there's not going to be that. I remember saying this last year because it's what the expert said. Yeah, next year's not going to be a really good year for quarterbacks. Now you come to this year, generational talents, and 4 are going to be taken in the first 6 picks of the draft. Well, wait a minute. Last year, you said there weren't going to be any. So I agree with you, Rob. I think it's interesting how the media works in the offseason, especially when we're devoid of any real news, and then we'll get distracted from it pretty soon, I hope, as tags start coming, free agency starts, when free agency happens. There'll be a lot of hype next week because, we start the combine. But, last year was fun to watch the combine because you saw guys rise and fall, literally.
Nope.
So
I love
every year, though. That's what it is every year. I love watching the combine.
Yep. Just for that reason, something.
Exactly. Right. Just for that reason. Yeah.
And this is
kind of like their first taste of getting the pro stuff. You're showing off for all these guys, so you either show up and show out, or you get showed out.
And as we all, as Ken and I and you have talked to nauseam about on the show, the hit rate on a quarterback is about 40% or less. Yeah. The hit on a wide receiver is much higher. The hit on a running back is much higher. The hit on line, offense and defense in the first round is a much higher hit rate. As in, when I say hit rate, for those who are like, what's he talking about? Like a hit versus a bust. So it hits a guy who's going to play past his rookie contract, is a starter, has good numbers. The fail rate on quarterbacks is over 60%. 60%. Yeah. The only 2 from Justin Fields' draft class that are still on the positive side, where they're not calling them a bust, are Fields and Lawrence. That's it. All the other quarterbacks for Kenny Pickett, he was the only guy. They're calling him a bust already. I think it's a little too early after 2 years to call a guy a bust.
You have to give a guy at least, 3 years. You got 3 years to show me you can do something. If you don't do something in 3 years, then you might be considered a bust.
And I mean, Pickett didn't have the greatest offensive coordinator either in Canada. That
And that's what I'm saying.
that
Pickett's had,
that massively hampered them. Maybe they can fix what Canada did to them, but I'm I am personally from the school of you can absolutely mess a quarterback up in his first couple of years and ruin him.
well, I think too, you got to look at, people, as we've been discussing in our chats offline, we always tend to look at the basic stats, win loss, right? Win loss, interception, touchdown, fumbles, overall passing percentage, and QBR. And those are not bad stats, but they don't tell the whole story. The problem is we make them absolutes. And I think in Pickett, there's another guy you can make the case for when you dig into his numbers. How many of his receivers have a win thrown to rating over 100? I don't know if he's got any. When it comes to contested catches, drop balls, separation, he needs help there too. So I think it's interesting, but yeah, such low rates that we get on this, and Rob makes a really great point. Um, I think the only way Poles trades out at one, and because we were talking about before the show, I think the only reason, and I agree with what you guys were saying pre-show. Look, you take Marvin Harrison Jr. at one and be done with it. He's a legit number one pick. It's not like it's a reach. I think the only way Poles trades down is if he feels that he could trade with Washington because he's duped him enough into thinking that we are going to take Caleb with all the media hype and everything, and he can go to Washington, go to number 2, and he knows that they're going to take Caleb for sure. And if I can go to 2 and I know they're taking Caleb and I can get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2, but also pick up a number 1 pick or first round pick next year to put in the tool bag, or maybe an additional, I don't even need that actually. Just give me a second rounder, right? We'll flip 1 to 2 and I'll take your second rounder this year and a conditional 1 next year, right? Or something like that. Because then at 2, the second round, I can draft my center I need, right? So, but otherwise, I tend to agree with you guys, or what Rob was saying. And at 9 is situational, right? If Browers is on the board at 9, you take him. If Adunez is on the board at 9, hell, take that receiver, right? Have 3 number 1 guys on the team. Make that a luxury pick where you just have now an embarrassment of riches to make Fields better, at least receiver wise. Or if there's Joe Alt is there, you take Alt because that pass protection is ranked 27th in the league, right? It needs help. So, but if nothing that you need, or that you feel, if a guy that you feel you could get at 18 is there, and a team at 16 wants to trade, make the trade, and then go get the guy at 16, right? And then pull in extra. So I think you're right, Rob. He is sitting in a general manager's wet dream, right? I mean, he's got a great young squad. He's got 80, 90 million, give or take, depending who you listen to spend. He can add in the first 3 rounds right now, you can add 4 or 5 impact players in the draft today. So when you think about it, let's say after they re-sign Jalen Johnson, you sign an edge, you sign maybe a corner or a safety or whatever. You sign 2 or 3 starters, and you could draft 5 more impact starters, 8 new impact starters to a team that was already on the rise. That's where you want to sit as a GM.
Yeah.
Look what Brad Holmes did last year.
That's where I would be if I was Poles. I mean, every GM in the league is looking at Poles going, I wish that was him. I wish I was him. Guarantee you that. Guarantee.
2 years in a row.
Yeah. No, well, he played it right. That last year when he parlayed the extra first round, I mean, bro, that's exactly like you said. That's what you want to do. He cleaned house, man. He set the bar so low that any improvement was going to make him look better too. I mean, that was a smart thing to do, is clean house. And now he's just, all he's got to do is add. And if he don't have a finished product by the end of this year, they might be calling for his head. But he can't. This is one of those situations where you can't fuck it up. Just do the right thing. Do the right thing in the draft, and you can't fuck this up.
Well, Ken, we talked about it yesterday when he got rid of Roquan, and then we showed what he brought in to replace that linebacking core. right, via free agency and undrafted free agent talent, right, and how that line. I mean, he did it. He cleaned house, but then he brought people in, and they went from the worst rush defense in the league to the best rush defense in the league in one year. So I mean, I agree with Rob. He cleaned house. I don't know how low he set the bar, he did the bar drop. Obviously, he
Yeah,
to the
I mean, you
worst,
guys had
but
3
it
wins,
wasn't
man.
like.
I mean, he had 3
But it
wins, bro.
wasn't
That's
like
pretty
the
low.
but like on defense, it wasn't like it was small improvement. It was a legit 180-degree improvement. Offensively, I think the improvement hasn't been. It wasn't obviously as big of a chunk. But yeah, you went
Yeah,
from winning 3 games to 8 games with 4 games. You could make an argument you should have won. I think the one that you really have no excuse for is the Cleveland game when Darnell Mooney has the winning touchdown in his hand, in his stomach, in the end zone. And instead of and he's on the ground, okay, but instead of hit the ball, hit him, and it rolls off. No, he pushes the ball in the air where it becomes an interception. And that play still to today boggles me how we don't win that. But I mean, Ken, I mean, I know we don't want to be talking the fields drafting ad nauseum because hell, everywhere we look on Facebook and everywhere else, what's being force fed us. But Holes has put himself in a good situation where, and the North in general, I think all the GMs, let's open it up that way. All the GMs have put the NFC North team in a situation where they're all going to be very competitive next year.
oh yeah. This is definitely going back to the old days of the black and blue division of when we were super competitive
Or
with each
nasty.
other. And I can see a scenario where at least 3 of the teams are fighting for playoff seeding. But like we've mentioned before, we got the wild card with Minnesota and finding if they can have any type of QB come in that wasn't the ass that they put out last year when Cousins went down. But hey, I'm more than happy with the direction of my team. I think we're easily fighting for the division title with Halfley being brought in and changing the major problem that we had with Green Bay. Because I absolutely love this offense. I, I think it's been directed in just about a perfect way with how LaFleur has this set up and the pieces that Goody's given them. Now I want to see is what Goody's going to do for this defense because I think this is the year we're overhauling a lot of it, and we're unfortunately going to see some guys that we like or have good feelings about whatever the hell you want to say. We're going to see them get jettisoned, and I'm really interested to see who's going to be coming in.
Well, that's like, when we were looking at some of the research stuff, like those videos we were watching with those numbers on fields, but the byproduct showed a lot of Jordan Love stuff, right? And that pass protect is 10th in the NFL. You got great offensive line for pass protection for Jordan Love.
Oh, yeah.
And now, and so now, and that was without the guy we were talking about last Friday, right? With Bakhtiari. So actually, that video made a great case to get rid of Bakhtiari. 10th ranked pass protection in the league without your $18 million a year albatross Bakhtiari. So I think he's gone. So you've got now, you were -3, right? Now with the salary cap increase and him gone, you got like almost 35 million to spend. And now you've got, well, and actually more because Savage and those guys, right? They fell off the book. So, I don't know, like Darnell Savage is a guy, like you said, a guy that Packer fans I know like, but he may be walking. He may be gone.
I unfortunately I kind of see the writing on the wall since his cap hit from his void years all came due. I think we're going to be moving on from him now. If there's a scenario where we can bring him back, if he doesn't have the market that he's going to have, and we can bring him back on the cheap, I'd absolutely love it. Hell, we all know I was pounding the table to re-sign him before his void years went out.
Yeah, but Ken or Rob, either one, how often do we actually see that happen? Like, we very rarely, if a guy gets cut or released like that, like how often do we actually see that guy re-signing with that team? That's usually the sign that, hey, thank you, It's been nice having you here, but you need to find a new home. Isn't that's normally?
I just think that the new DC hasn't put his stamp on it yet. I mean, he's got to check out who he's got, see what fits in his scheme, and I'm sure we're going to end up cutting some guys because it's not an easy switch over from 3 to 4 because now you got to put your hand in the dirt, and some of these guys they just weren't drafted for that reason there, So, I mean, in that scenario, I could see, you could use those guys for trade. I mean, it's not like they're bad players. I mean, you could trade them. You get something for them.
Well, they're off the roster now, so you have to re-sign and trade. So I mean,
he was alluding to different guys.
Yeah, like Hassan Nixon and like Savage. These guys, man. I mean, we need those guys, and if they fit in Hafley's schedule or fit in his scheme, then I'm all about keeping them. But this draft has got a lot of talent in there. There's a lot of guys. There's 3 or 4 really good corners, and I mean, man, we're going to get 1 or 2 of these guys. I mean, we got 5. How many picks you guys got in the first 100? Ken, we got 5 picks in the first 93.
I want to say at least 3, if not 4. 2 first, I think 1 third or 2 third rounders.
Oh, you don't have we have no number.
Wait. You know what our second round pick turned into?
What?
Montez Sweat. We traded that pick for Montez Sweat.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're right.
So that's the thing when we talk draft analysis, when it's all said and done, yes, Montez Sweat is the Bears' second round pick this year because that's what you spent to get him, right? I think that's fair. Yeah. Any team trades a draft pick, you gotta, whatever player you trade for, that's where you put for that second round. So the Bears do have a second rounder this year. His name is Montez Sweat. And I think as a second round pick, gents, I think any of us would be happy with that kind of.
You could still probably, depending on what you guys do with that number 9 and how you play it. I mean,
we could have another.
You could get it to number 2 in there still. So
yeah, you could. But I mean, as far as second round picks go, I think Montez Sweat would be a really good one. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Shit,
so I am not upset.
Yeah, I'm hoping we trade one of our third rounders for a guy. Because we saw as Packers fans that very good player can go for a third round with us getting rid of Rasul. So there's a little bit of a precedence that we might be able to get somebody from a team that, hey, we kind of like this guy, but we want to go in a different direction.
Well, let's get off the draft a little bit because I know Ken actually prepared some stuff. Let's use what Ken prepared because we kind of divvied off a little, which was good discussion nonetheless. But I think
I'm just going along with whatever you guys talk about. I'm just here for the ride.
But hey, because we're all living that life, right? But Rob, I noticed you and I both have mugs of the Go-Go anti-murdery juice. I call anti-murder juice. Ken, what's up, bud? You're lacking.
He doesn't drink. Do you drink coffee, Ken? I've never seen him drink coffee.
Not usually. Every once in a while, I will. But I have extremely high blood pressure, so I try to avoid caffeine.
I'm trying to get us a sponsor from Dunkin' Donuts, bro. I love Dunkin'. Like when I'm not drinking.
I was gonna say at that point you might get me to drink some here and there.
I'm an iced coffee guy, man, big time.
But these are guys we think are gonna get tagged, right? So we're not going to get an opportunity.
Yeah,
they're not.
You think they're not going to let them go? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, these guys aren't going anywhere. Now, the funny thing,
I honestly could see Saquon moving, just because of the money that he would be due for the Giants, and to me, it almost has the feeling like the Giants are getting ready to blow this thing up and start again, because you're hearing a lot of talk about them being interested in quarterbacks, even though they just gave Daniel Jones that huge freaking contract.
And they're stuck with that contract, right?
Somebody dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, because I think if it's not all, most of that contract is guaranteed. If I remember correctly.
That's because he had a little bit of spurt there, he was giving hope to the whole city for a while.
Well, but then again, though, that he had people to throw to. Now he doesn't. Per se.
Yeah, they're taking away all his weapons, and I didn't realize this was the second tag they're putting on Barkley. Is there a limit to how many times you can?
Two is the most that they can tag.
Really? Wow.
But here's the
Something
thing, though.
I
So the
wasn't
first
aware of.
tag,
You can
like,
take somebody.
well, like let's look at Jalen Johnson, right? You tag him this year, it's 18.5, right? If you tag him next year, right? Now, I would say the
Yeah.
number would be 18.5 for a guy on a first time. On the second tag, it goes up 25%. So now it's like 23 or 20, some
Yeah.
number like that. It ends up becoming a bigger number on that second tag. So for Josh Jacobs to the Raiders, and it's funny that Joe just shows up as we bring this up, but like the Raiders really want, I think they want Josh Jacobs back. And actually, I think Josh Jacobs wants to go back. Like the head coaching situation
He's a
is
solid
different
back, man.
now. They've got a Raider coach, right? But for them to tag him a second time, now it's worth like 15 mil or something like that. It's worth a lot more. So the second tag, that's significant with the second tag.
I'm with you, Dorn. I wish it could happen.
I know, because I was looking. I didn't know Snead was on this list either, man. Holy shit.
Well, I guess there's my "What would John Dorn do" moment, and I figures that John might be a little high this morning because I don't think that's even feasible financially for the Packers.
He might be in a tree too. I don't know. Somewhere.
Yeah, he might be.
Hey, maybe we can get these guys to just take veteran minimums and just to come play for Green Bay.
Yeah,
well,
right.
They're saying these guys are going to get tagged. So Snead.
Yeah.
Bro, you seen how? Look at the playoffs. How fucking clutch that guy was. Holy shit! What I would give to get a guy like that.
Well, Joe, welcome to the show. I mean, we got the overlay up here. What do you think about the Josh Jacobs thing with the tag? Because that's your like. I know with Jalen Johnson, I think they're going to get a deal done before he has to tag, but they'll tag just in case if they don't. What do you think with Josh Jacobs? Are they going to tag him or let him test?
They're definitely not going to tag him. At least from what I understand of their draft and their offseason plans, I don't think they tag him because it's just too expensive. They don't want to pay him $14 million, $15 million. They don't even want to pay him $12 million a year. I think the only way Jacobs comes back is if he comes to his senses and realizes that the running back market is devalued and he takes a lower deal. And I think the Raiders are prepared to move on from Jacobs. I don't think they want to, and I think that they're willing to do what they can to try to make a deal. But it's going to depend on how Josh Jacobs wants to play ball. You know what I mean? Like if he wants to stay a Raider, he's going to take $6 million. You know, he's not going to take $12 million.
How much do you think he wants?
Well, what he wants and what he's going to get are two different things. I know,
but what does he want? Because I want to see if it's realistic that he's going to go to your $6 million. You're saying you guys.
Well, I don't think it's realistic unless he has a real change of heart.
I was trying to know.
Unless he has a real change of heart, he wants to be a top, a paid like a top back in the league. What it really is he wants a long-term contract. He wants like 3 years at $12 or $13 million a year. And the Raiders are not willing to commit that kind of guaranteed money to him, especially because Jacobs has been kind of up and down. Last year he's coming off his career worst year. So do you really want to dedicate that kind of cap space to when, again, the running back position has been so devalued? It's like you can go out and you can replace Jacobs' production with a 3rd round, 4th round pick,
Well, yeah, you could do that because of what he did last year, but I mean,
but same with Saquon Barkley, though.
Show up or you get replaced. That's just how it goes.
Like I like Josh Jacobs more than Saquon.
Yep.
I know Bears fans probably want to kill me now because we have a love affair in Chicago with Saquon for some weird reason. But I mean, with both these guys, right? Both played on a tag last year. Neither of them were worth the money the tag paid them last year. And while Josh Jacobs, I think, is the better running back than Saquon, and he loves the Raiders, and the Raiders love him, these guys both have the same issue. They came into the league at a time when a top running back, when they came into a contract year, made 15 to 20 million. But the league changed last year tremendously. Like Josh said, or Joe said, the market for the running back room devalued significantly. But these guys, their mentality about what the market is not what the reality of the market is. You look at what, the Bears let Montgomery go last year because he wanted $6 million, and I think they were probably willing to give him $5 million, right?
Mm.
But you can see that you can get a guy like David Montgomery for $6 million who had a better year last year than Saquon or Josh.
Yeah.
So, if you're the Giants or the Raiders, you're like, I can just go get me a Montgomery type of guy or two Montgomerys.
Or I could go and I could draft Jonathan Brooks and Blake Corum, and I could easily replace Josh Jacobs' production for $1.2 million a year.
Yeah.
So I think the running backs
what's
being tagged. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, that's what's massively undervaluing these running backs is how good these rookies are coming out, and it just seems like no matter what, you're getting a shelf of like 4 years for the average guy, and then if the guy's really good, you're getting 6 to maybe 8 with your running backs.
So check it out. So I argue. Well, I don't argue, but I have conversations with some guys on the Raiders subreddit about Josh Jacobs and about other things as well. But something that was brought to my attention that I don't know if it's actually true, but it sounds like it could be true. And it was sort of interesting to me was this guy was talking about the difference that you get between an elite back and just a regular guy. And they broke it down like it averages out like an elite back gets you like an extra 8 yards rushing per game over the course of a season. So he's like, why are you going to spend $10 million for 8 extra yards a game over the course of a season? Like he's like, it's going to get you 150, almost 200 yards extra over the course of an entire season. So
what about touchdown production?
He didn't get into that, but he just went strictly with yardage, and maybe that's why he didn't include touchdown production.
I was gonna say, bro, because I mean, I don't care. You can be
like I said, hey, I'm
you're
not
a goal line back, and you give me 20 touchdowns a year. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Robin. And this isn't my take. This is a
no, I get it. I was just curious about it. That's all.
Yeah, this is a take that was proposed to me that makes sense. But I'm sure that you could skew those stats any way you want to, and maybe he did. Maybe he purposely left off touchdowns because there's a big difference there, right?
But then you get guys like Swift, who's a free agent this year, who's a short yardage guy that is, he doesn't get the ball between the 20s, but the guy ends up like 15 touchdowns, but on the year he doesn't even get you 300 yards rushing because he's just going from the 2-yard line into the end zone. So what's his value versus, say, a guy like Josh Jacobs? I mean, he scores more touchdowns than Josh Jacobs, right?
What's 15 touchdowns worth to you?
Yeah.
It's like, see, this is why I think that, like, you really need 2 backs. Like, you got to have one guy who is, your between the 20s workhorse, and then you got to have one guy who's your specialist, your short yardage inside the red zone. He's going to get us the touchdowns kind of guy. And so, who do you value more? Personally, I think you should value the specialist more because he's specialized. He's getting you those touchdowns, and that's because you can get anybody to run between the 20s, man. Not everybody is going to get you 15 touchdowns a year.
I think
and
got that
your offensive scheme and offensive line too, because that has a lot
in the
to do
north.
with that.
In the north, you could say Detroit and Chicago have that kind of thunder and lightning, right? The Bears have Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson. Khalil Herbert's more of a finesse, lightning guy between the 20s. Herbert's your north-south hit bash you guy running. For the Detroit, you got Jameer is definitely your between the 20s guy, and Montgomery's your guy you used in the red zone. Right now, look at all these guys.
The Raiders don't have that. They have. Jacobs is both. He can be both.
I mean, they only have Jacobs. That's what I mean. You have
and you got guys that can be both. Still, don't get me wrong.
They don't only have Jacobs. Zamir White has come on, and I'm not going to sit here and say he's a top 10 back in the league, but he was. This was his second year, and he really, I thought at the end of the season when Jacobs was out, he really did a good job replacing Jacobs. But the Raiders don't have a specialist like that. They don't have a short yardage back because Zamir White and Josh Jacobs, they're both the same. I don't want to say the same kind of backs, but neither one of them is like the big bruiser that you want in short yardage situations, right? So I would actually, even if Jacobs stays, I would expect the Raiders to get another running back. And I'm like pounding the table for Audric Estime from Notre Dame because he's the perfect combination of size and speed in short yardage situations. Like, and the dude has elite balance. Like, I've never seen a running back as big as him with the feet that he has, the balance that he has, like the contact balance when he's, other guys, like if you watch a guy like Jonathan Brooks from Texas, right? He's flashy. He's really fun to watch because he bounces around like a ping ball, like a pinball off of like contact. He's like boom, boom, boom. But his balance is nowhere near Audric Estime's. Like Audric Estime, no matter how many times he gets hit, no matter which angle he gets hit from, he's always in control. Like that's the thing for me. That's when I say he has elite balance. Is that he's never off balance and stumbling around. Like he's either hurdling you, running you over, or running around you.
So he's got like Barry Sanders, Walter Payton type skills.
Yeah, except nowhere near as fast and nowhere near the elusiveness.
I get that, but the shifty's all you really need. I can't tell you how many times I watched Barry Sanders bounce off a group of guys and then you're like, how the hell did he come out of there like that?
Yeah, but Estime is not Barry Sanders. He's not a Barry Sanders type of runner. He doesn't rely on shifty cuts and stuff. He's like a one cut kind of guy that but the thing with him is that he has the size to go in between the tackles and pick up consistent yardage, but he also has the speed that if he goes between the tackles and there's a lane outside, he has the speed to hit that outside lane and get you big yardage. He doesn't have home run speed. He runs a 4.48. Like it's not like Darren McFadden break a 90-yard touchdown kind of speed. It's more like he reminds me of like a bigger Josh Jacobs kind of actually, because Jacobs, if he has enough space in the beginning of the run, he can get you a touchdown. He can break off a 60-yarder, right? But he's got to have nobody around him for like 10 yards so that he gets that.
Yeah, you got to get deep into the secondary.
You've got to get deep into the secondary without being pursued first. Like Estime's like that. But what Estime will get you is you'll never have to worry about a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2 again. Like he's guaranteed. So that's why I want Estime so badly.
That's the kind of back that's valuable. Because man, how many times you watch somebody get stuffed on 4th and 1? I mean, you need a guy who can hit that hard yard.
I think there's only one every down back in the league right now. And unfortunately for Saquon and Josh, they think that they're in the same group, but they're not. That's worth that $15 million a year contract, and that's CMC. Like CMC is probably the only running back who breaks the market, if you will, because not only what he does as a running back, but everything else for San Francisco. And the problem is,
I would say Derrick Henry too.
Well, yeah, but Derrick Henry's still he's going to get a contract like $6 million a year this year.
But I'm just saying Derrick Henry, I think is another every down back because he can run short yardage, he can run on first down. Derrick Henry can do it all.
But when you're Saquon and Jacobs, maybe Henry being a free agent and the fact that Henry will probably sign for like $6 million a year, maybe that brings those two down because on the other side of that coin, they're looking at CMC, who they think is their peer, which they're not his peer. CMC is better than both of them, right? Because of everything else he does. But they're looking, well, that's our peer, and he's getting 15, so we should get 15. But if Derrick Henry goes for 6, let's say he signs one of my dream scenarios, and actually Billy Defense Guy's dream scenario too, is Derrick Henry signs to Chicago for $6 million a year. Right, because we don't want that. We like to have.
I'd be scared.
Yeah,
we Derrick Henry. And
that's when we got to go out and sign us one of these top flight linebackers to pair with Quay and shut him down.
I mean, we like having 3 running backs in Chicago now. Like we've even taken a step. We want 3, right? We want to cover every situation possible with these running backs, and we like to use our running backs more in passing or have. We'll see how the new offense coordinator is. But like if Derrick Henry goes somewhere for $6 million, if you're Josh Jacobs now, you're going, well, shit. Like this guy, I call my peer. Let's face it, the guy's still better than me overall, and he's
that's why I'm hoping that Derrick Henry signs.
If you guys had a dome, you'd probably get a lot more talent.
That's why I'm hoping that Derrick Henry signs first, because it'll readjust the market and it'll let these other guys know what they're realistically worth. Because Josh Jacobs is going to have a hard time arguing that he's worth what Derrick Henry's worth. You know, I mean, just based off of the All Pros, based off of the rushing titles, and Derrick Henry is consistently in the top 5 rushing yards every single year. Josh Jacobs
per carry, yards after hit,
yards per carry, everything. Josh Jacobs has been there before, but and he's been top 5 in rushing yards, I think twice. He was number 1 once. Derrick Henry's been number 1 how many times? I think at least 2. At least 2 in his career. He's been number 1, the leading rusher.
I mean, he was an MVP candidate, right? He's the last. He's like the last running back who was actually an MVP candidate. Not the and CMC this year. I mean, those two guys are a whole nother level. Like Saquon, Josh, you're not them. And maybe they're using that their argument. They're saying, well, fine, but I'm not CMC, but CMC is getting 15, so I should at least get 10. It's probably his current argument, right? But if Joe's right though. If Henry signs for 6, to those guys,
there's no way you can realistically.
Yeah, there's no way. And tight ends are the same way. The tight end market got squashed last year, and Cole Kmet 3 years ago probably got a much bigger contract than what he got last year in Chicago, because the tight end market was ridiculously out of control.
I blame Darren Waller for that. I blame Darren Waller for the tight end market getting.
That's a good point, Joe. That's a great point.
I'm a Raider fan, but I'm not a homer, dude. Like, I can admit, like we overpaid Darren Waller, and it caused other people to overpay tight ends.
He sucks. He is nothing with the Giants.
Well, there's a reason. There's a reason we traded him for a 3rd-round pick, dude. Like, he's been sitting on our bench for the last season and a half, and we're like, well, we can either pay this dude $17 million to sit on the bench, or we can get a 3rd-round pick for him and start again. We sold. I wouldn't say we sold high, because I would have traded him to the Packers in the Devontae trade if it would have been possible.
We were for him. Green Bay was supposedly trying to do that, and the Ravens
tried to do that, bro. That was
did
like
not
one of the
want to move off from him at all.
Yeah, I know the NFL wouldn't allow it, but I'm saying, like, then after that, the Packers offered a 2nd-round pick. I would have taken the 2nd personally. Like, dump that $17 million in cap space and get yourself a new tight end.
I'm so glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, you should be, because now you got 2 good tight ends, and Darren Waller is languishing away in New York.
Well, I was going to say, how much of that is Darren Waller, and how much is the horrible quarterback situation with the Giants?
Well,
I'm not saying that Darren Waller's still a top guy, but I don't think he's quite as bad.
Well, for his position, he should be clutch with any quarterback, in my opinion. If you're a decent tight end,
for what he's getting paid, he should be producing no matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you have. It doesn't matter if you have Jimmy Clausen throwing you the ball.
Top 5 tight end money. Top 5 tight end money.
That's the other problem for them when they're talking to Saquon, because they got Waller sitting there making all this money, and Saquon's like, I'm like light years beyond this guy in production, and you're paying him 17, and you want to give me 6. I mean, the Giants would almost be better off just cutting Waller at this point.
Who's in charge over there? Because they're fucking dumbass, man. Who's in charge over there? Holy fuck! Overpay the quarterback, overpay the tight end. I mean, holy shit.
And honestly, I was on Med's show last night, and he brought up the numbers. Like, the Giants are in a position where they can't even cut Daniel Jones. Because
we were talking about that earlier. Like, they got to eat that contract.
Cap is like, if they were to cut him pre-June 1st, his dead cap is $69 million.
That's worse than Rodgers. That's worse than Rodgers.
And that's not even the worst part. That's not even the worst part. You know what his post-June 1st cut is? $59 million.
Yeah. But but then Joe. I mean, when we talk about dead cap, if you cut a guy, Russell Wilson's dead cap's like $85 million. And people are saying, "Oh, it's a no-brainer. They're cutting them." So
yeah, they're cutting them. They have to. But the situations are different. After Sean Payton treated Russ the way he did, there's no way Russ is coming back.
Right, but
Period.
we just said though. Think about no, let's not look at that situation as is. Let's look at what we just said. We just said, and we've all said it. We're all wrong in saying this. We're not wrong, but we all said this. They can't move on from Jones because of the dead cap. And then 2 seconds later, well, Denver has 80-some million in dead cap to cut Russ. Oh yeah, he's definitely being cut. So to me, like if they're going to cut Jones and take an $85 million dead cap, the Giants could still cut Jones. Or I mean,
No,
you're
you're
right.
You're right.
They can still cut Jones. They can't.
You're
I said
right.
it
They
wrong,
could.
but
And I actually, on Med's show, I actually said that I think they should. I think that they should
Good.
take the dead cap. But I think the reason that we say you can't do that is because you can't do that and realistically expect to be competitive. Like you're basically saying this year is a loss and next year is a loss too.
Oh yeah,
but-
and good luck
but
selling that
here
to
was the
Giants
reason-
fans.
Here was the reason that I said that the Giants should move on from Daniel Jones is that you're at number 6. Now what I said was that this should be a draft day decision, but if one of the top 3 quarterbacks should happen to fall to 6, I think you rip the Band-Aid off, you get rid of Jones, you take one of the top 3 quarterbacks, and yes, the next 2 years are going to be rough, but after that, you still have 2 more years on a rookie contract with your quarterback, and you can start to rebuild, you can be competitive, and who knows, I mean, if the guy ends up being a superstar, he could end up having you competitive anyway, depending on how the rest of your draft goes. But the cap space is going to be, terrible. I mean, you're eating so much dead money that you're not going to be able to sign free agents or anything. But to me, it's insanity to roll with Daniel Jones for the next 2 years. To me, you're basically, you're doing the same thing as taking the dead cap hit. You're saying we're not going to be competitive for the next 2 years.
That's kind of my point, but I'm going to counter a little bit. Is since you're already going to be wasting the money with cutting them with your dead cap, why don't you take that quarterback at 6 and let him sit behind Jones and work on grooming him up and let Jones go out there and take the beating that's going to happen? Because, hey, we already got to pay this guy. We might as well have him being the one getting decimated.
Bears tried that with Fields, though, man. They had the Andy,
Ken?
what's his name in there? And he
Normally
didn't
that
last
would
but
be a
2
good
games.
idea. Normally that would be a good idea. But whatever Daniel Jones has, I don't want my new quarterback having it. I'm just being honest, bro. Like,
That's a good point.
he's the last guy. He's one of the last guys that I want grooming my new
Oh
quarterback.
no! I don't want him grooming him or nothing at all. You just go out on the field and you pretty
So
much
basically, you're putting him out there like as a crash test dummy. Like here, you take that. You get beat up
and
in
then
the
let
next
your
2 years.
quarterback coach just be in the fucking backup's ear the whole time and be propping him up to succeed. And you already know Daniel Jones is
basically your quarterback coach would be sitting next to your new quarterback saying, "Okay, you see what he did? Don't do that."
I think New York's in a situation like with their GM. Like, look, I think when you look at Ryan Poles, what Ryan Poles did, he came into an organization that, look, the Bears have been like a lot of these NFL teams. The Raiders are in this boat. The Giants are in this boat. There's a lot of good franchises in this boat where year in, year out, they're a +1 or -1 500 team, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're always straddling that. Like one year they get in the playoffs, because they win 10. The next year they win 8, they miss it, or 9 and they miss it. And these are good teams, but they're franchises that like expect, like New York, Chicago, they expect, we got to be playoff and we got to be this. And then you got a guy like Poles who came in, tore it down, told the fans, you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 years. It's a process. It's going to take time. And he was willing to do that. Ownership was willing to do that with them. New York is in that same situation. They need to get a GM that comes in there, tears it all down, tells New Yorkers, hey, you know what? Shut the hell up. We're going to strip it down. It's going to take 3 years 2 to 3 years until we're good again at all. We're going to totally suck for 2 years, probably. Deal with it, because this is how we repair it to where we're back to our former glory. And
I
don't think
the New York fan
I think
base.
you're right that they should tear it down. But my question is, if you're going to go ahead and tear it down, does that mean that you trade Thibodeau and you trade all your good players now for draft capital?
No, you don't necessarily. You don't have to necessarily, because like look at when we got rid of Roquan, but we did keep some guys around. There are going to be some players that you're going to keep, like especially on your offensive and defensive line guys can go 10, 15 years. We know that at eye level. Long snappers, kickers, but if you look what the Bears did, he's replaced 85% or more of that roster over 2 years. So you're going to do that anyways. I mean, but
I'm saying
initially
Thibodeau could bring you possibly a first round pick. Easily, at this point. So which it's kind of a wash because he was a first round pick. But if you're going into a rebuild, you need all of the draft capital that you can get. Here's another thing is, is there a possibility? Well, no, I don't see any team really willing to take on Daniel Jones's contract.
No.
Like,
so like look at the Bears, like he kept certain weapons like Komet. So like he kept like Komet,
but he was Fields' number one target before you guys got DJ Moore. Was Komet. You had to keep Komet.
It was Komet / Mooney / but what I'm saying though, when you're talking about these guys, if you're going to strip down, so the guys that were drafted, their first or second round picks on rookie deals, and they've got 2 to 3 years on a rookie deal. Those are the guys you probably are keeping when you strip down to nothing. So if you got guys who are about to be contract year or whatever, you trade them off, get rid of them for capital, and the only guys you're keeping are guys that you have positive team control on for 2 to 3 years. Because when you in year one, right? Okay, so the Bears win 3 games, right? As they stripped everything down. So then you look at the contracts Poles did last year. Most of these contracts are 3 to 4 years tops, right? Because he knows he's got guys on rookie deals, and now he's got some staggering. So, like, if you go to New York, if you got guys who are year 2 or entering year 2 or year 3, odds are you're keeping most of those guys. But if you guys got guys who are in year 4 on a 5th-year option, or they're a year out from contract, you're looking to trade, especially if it's a guy that's going to cost you money. You trade, get rid of them, and bring in capital.
Thibodeau has what, 2 years in already? So they got another 2 years with him, and then they got to pay him, right?
Plus an extension.
Or maybe 1 year.
I was going to say he'd still have his 5th-year option too.
Yeah, you got 3 years.
Yeah. So you got 3 years, but if you're going to tear it down, it's going to be at least 2 years before you're even competitive.
I know we were just talking. It takes at least 3 years.
But that's fine though, because let's say this season you start tearing it down. All right, so this is your bad year. Next year, year 2 is an improvement year. Year 3 is a playoff year. Now, by that point, though, you've stripped it down. You're sitting like the Bears are with all this cap money. So then you can pay Thibodeau. You're fine. It's like the Bears paying Jalen Johnson. It's a similar situation as Jalen Johnson. So, okay, but you're going to have the money to pay that guy, so that's fine. So, like, if the New York Giants tear it down this year, and they may very well do that when they get to week 4 or 5 and they're 0-5. The GM's going, all right, start trading people out, get rid of people.
Poor
right?
Gable,
See,
man.
I wouldn't wait that long. I wouldn't wait that long. If you're convinced that you need to tear it down, which at this point with Daniel Jones's contract and with Darren Waller's contract, I'm convinced that they need to tear it down. You're sitting at number 6, so it's not going to cost you what it would cost somebody else to move up. If I'm the Giants GM, I'm on the phone with Chicago and I'm like, what's it going to take to move up to number 1? Get the quarterback of our choice on a rookie contract, take the loss on Daniel Jones, take the loss on Darren Waller, and let's just start the rebuild now.
How about let's just get a GM that knows what the fuck he's doing? Because you guys realize that the Packers' whole wide receiver, their wide receivers and their tight ends are all under contract for $12 million. Their whole wide receiver room tight end.
Yeah.
How is it that these fucking GMs get so far behind on this?
Yeah, but what's going to happen, Rob? All of a
amazing.
sudden, but here's what's going to happen in about 2 years. That 12 million is a balloon significantly.
Yeah. I understand that, but that's how it goes. I mean, you got to continue drafting in order to keep that pile to keep that kind of progress going, and maybe you get one or two of these guys that come out that are superstars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're going to keep 1 or 2 and lose 1 or 2. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's just how it is.
With the Bears, Darnell Mooney was great the first couple years when he got drafted, and now look at it, we let him go. And you're gonna have a guy who's gonna be like that. Is it gonna be Christian? Is it gonna be Dobbs? Who knows? One of those guys is probably gonna fall off over the next 2 years, and one will get re-signed. And
Curry's gone.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? I mean, that's a natural progression, right? Like these guys, that all 3 aren't gonna remain great. 1 or 2 are gonna drop off, have production drop off. mental mind games get bigger than their brains and get bigger than their skills, right? Kind of thing. We see it with players we like all the time, and you're right. But you got to keep drafting. So when your Darnell Mooney guy happens, you're gonna have someone to go right back in. And I think with New York, they're in that situation. I agree with Joe. Just cut bait, like buy Saquon, buy all of them. We're gonna be really shitty this year. We might win 1 to 3 games tops, but now we're resetting the like when Poles took over, our dead cap was horrendous. Now our dead cap.
So does
our
that mean
dead
you
cap
get rid
this
of
year is
Daboll
10
and get a
million.
new head coach for this new regime that you're going to do?
No,
Or do you,
unfortunately, I think you keep Gable this year and let them lose every game they can possibly lose. And you don't, because if you don't, well, it depends. And I think Joe will agree with me. If you're drafting the quarterback this year, you're getting a new head coach. The problem is you've missed the market this year, so now you have to wait till next year. So if you don't draft your quarterback this year, you just got to let Gable suck, fire him at the end of the year, hire your new head coach, and draft your quarterback next year, which once again, like we were told last year, next year's going to be a bad quarterback class. But of course, next year we'll have a generational talent, and that's when you do it.
So Ken, that's where I think that they have to make the move. If they're going to make the move, they have to make it now, because next year's quarterback class isn't as strong. I'm not going to say that there's no good quarterbacks in it, but it's just not as strong. But I agree with you. I think that if the Giants roll into this season with Daniel Jones and they lose Saquon and all this stuff, they're going to be picking probably either number 1 or number 2 overall anyway. So they're going to have their pick of quarterbacks that aren't as good. So to me, it makes more sense if you're already going to cut bait on Jones, you might as well do it this year. Eat the dead cap, trade up, get the quarterback that you want, because by the time you get your picks back, you're going to be in year 2 or year 3 of the rebuild, and you'll be ready to roll. You'll have all your picks. You can surround your quarterback with weapons. You still have 2 more years on your quarterback's contract. To me, it seems like the fastest way to get back to competitive. If they roll with Daniel Jones this year, you're just delaying the rebuild that you already know is coming, and you're getting an inferior quarterback next year. To me,
and I just thought of this.
I would go ahead and cut Waller. I would cut Waller. I would let Saquon walk, and I would cut Daniel Jones. And yeah, it's going to be a horrendous dead cap. But once that money clears the books, you're going to have a shitload of cap space, all your picks back in 2 years, and you're ready to roll with your new quarterback. And he's been sitting.
And you know what? You've got 2 head coaches that didn't get coaching jobs right now that you could say they're out there like, hey, I've got 2 stud head coaches that didn't get jobs yet. Vrabel and
I would call Bill Belichick, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would call Belichick. I would say, Bill, hey man, do you want to come in and run this tear down? We're going to give you your quarterback this year.
Bill has already said though that he absolutely refuses to go work for the Giants, and that he has actively told other coaches not to go to the Giants because of Mara's nephew there that's in charge. He's got some big, huge spout with him where he thinks he's absolutely horrible at running shit and does not want anything to do with the Giants.
Wow.
Well, hey guys, we got about 30 seconds left. We got about 30 seconds left for today. Just want to remind everyone to be back here tomorrow morning for Ken and Ken in the morning. Great football talk this morning, as always, guys. Don't forget the Roku shows on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday between the Frozen Tundra Network and House Hall Report. Guys, great football talk today. I hate to cut us off, but we're at that hour mark. We need to sign off. Everyone, will see you back here tomorrow morning. Hope you all have a phenomenal day. And Ken, you get the last one. What is it?
It's go, Pack, go.
He has time. He's got him. Left side, touch is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.